Well, you know, I was in the 4th year of writing Black Damp, the story of the Cherry mining disaster, when I was introduced to the Starved Rock murders. Now, I had hiked the park many times over the course of the years since I moved to the Illinois. And I was stunned when I started researching the Starved Rock murders to see the massive amount of publicity that this crime generated. It was the cover story for Life magazine a couple times. They had hundreds and hundreds of newspaper and radio reporters from all over the country. They had international reporters cover this case. And it just blew me away. It just how much massive amount of publicity. This was really considered one of the first mass murders of its time. 3 ladies from Riverside, Illinois, came down to Starved Rock State Park on March 14, 1960, for some days of rest and relaxation. They had been there before. They were very familiar with the park and the lodge. On that Monday, they parked car into the lot, checked into their rooms, had lunch, hiked later that afternoon into St. Louis Canyon. 2 days later, they were found beaten to death in a crime that changed the Illinois Valley forever, changed the way Illinois State Police investigates crime, and really threw up a mystery that never went away. People still talk about it today. It's 40 years later, they still have controversy about this crime today. It's just amazing to me how much publicity this crime generated, and people really, really had their lives changed because of this act out to the park. Really too bad that such a horrible thing had happened in such a beautiful place, but it was really quite an amazing story, and I'm surprised that nobody ever put the whole story down on paper before, never from start to finish wrote a book about it, just amazingly enough. So I was lucky enough to realize that had happened, and I decided just to go ahead and write a book about it because it's a very interesting case and a very important case to the state of Illinois, because it did change the way they investigate crimes, and I think it's very important. You can't say that about a lot of other big-name Illinois crimes, such as the Richard Speck case or the John Wayne Gacy. Those cases actually owe their solutions a lot to the Starved Rock murders and the lessons learned from the mistakes made by the police at that time.
Steve, tell us about your meeting with the murderer, Chester Weger.
Well, I decided that you had to talk to Weger because a lot of people in this area maintain that Weger is innocent of the crime, that he was railroaded, that he was framed for these murders. So I decided to go to Stateville Prison, seek the man out, and ask him face-to-face some questions about the crime. You know, I went there to Stateville, and it was a very, very scary place for me to go to. And with the expectations of realizing that Chester Weger had 40 years to think of any answer for any question that somebody was going to come up. But I was very impressed with his intelligence. I was very impressed with his demeanor, and he's very convinced in a face-to-face meeting when you ask him his questions. I realized that he had a long time to think of the answers. But I was very impressed with his demeanor, and I was very shaken after the first interview. I interviewed him twice, and I can remember leaving the prison thinking that, well, maybe he is innocent. Maybe he was railroaded into this case. Because he had benefit of the doubt going for him, which means you don't want to think that anybody in your presence can be responsible for such a horrendous act. But research, my continued research into the case proves that the prosecuting attorneys, the arresting detectives, the other police work done throughout the case did prove, shadow of any doubt, that Chester Weger is the convicted killer, is the killer, man responsible for these 3 deaths in 1960. A lot of people think to this day that he's innocent. How can one unarmed man attack, intimidate, and ultimately kill 3 women, each of whom were larger than he was? The question is to be asked in the canyon. You're surrounded in that canyon by 3 100-foot walls, one way in, one way out, a man stopping your exit from the canyon. I maintain that the canyon killed them as much as the man did. They were intimidated by the park, intimidated by the canyon, intimidated by the man. Intimidation ultimately led to their deaths, and it's really a sad, sad case and of this crime. It's a very, very sad thing. But the point of it is, it was a murders that happened in the course of a robbery. I believe Chester Weger's 11 confessions that during the first few hours of his arrest, I maintain that he gave information that no one else could have known at that time, and beyond the confessions, there was physical evidence that did point to his guilt in this case. He was sentenced on his 22nd birthday in 1961 to imprisonment, and he remains there to this day.
Has he read your book?
I believe he has. When we were writing the book, when I was writing the book, he, I think, falsely believed that some of these stories, some of the book would help to prove his innocence. But I don't believe that. I've had people read my book and say, well, this man is innocent. I think he's innocent of crime. I've often questioned which book did they actually read. But I think I wrote a fair book if people can read the book and still think that he might have not done it. Nobody wants to believe that one man could attack and intimidate and kill 3 women without some kind of weapon, but maintain that 4 people went into the canyon that Monday, March 14th, 1960. Only 1 came out. We will never know what really happened, but we have to believe Chester Weger's own words when he was confessing. We have to believe that. We have to believe that there's some truth in those confessions that he gave us. Enough truth to realize that he committed the murders. He committed the murders by himself, and that the park returned to a very safe place and a beautiful place that it always should have been.